the tree. But you have to come here. Come show everyone your cute face. No, doesn't want to come over here. So if you've been watching my videos recently, you know that Levi has been with me for almost a month now, and he has to go back to the shelter here pretty soon, so I wanted to make a video talking about the things that I've learned from having a timid or shy rescue dog. I have 6 main points that I came up with. There were originally 5, but then I thought of another one when we were on our walk just now. And some of these things I had already known from my experience, but it just really hits home knowing that it exists in other species, not just people. So my first point is that results can be really slow or may never even actually occur at all. This has probably been the hardest thing for me with overcoming my anxiety, is that I feel like I've been working on something for weeks or even months and not seeing any real progress. And I just keep reminding myself that at my age, things probably won't change very quickly. And it is even possible that you may end up working on something for years even and never really see a change. And that would be really disappointing, but that's just how things are sometimes, where you won't know if it can ever change, but if it does, it will be really slowly, and it'll take a long time for there to be any noticeable difference. And during that time, you just feel like giving up or going back to your old habits because you decide, oh well, I guess this isn't working. But in reality, if you keep up with something for weeks or months, then maybe you will eventually start to see change. And Levi is like that too. Because he's from the shelter and I don't even know what his previous life was like with his other family, but he gets really nervous around other people and dogs, and he'll tend to freeze up and become immovable. And I've been taking him on walks several times a day so that he would get used to other people and see that they're not actually a threat. That's just, I don't know where he got that idea from, and he would still freeze up after we'd gone on walks for several weeks, and I was wondering if he would ever learn that it's okay, he can keep going, they're not gonna do anything to him. And he still kind of freezes up, but I think he's getting a little better at it. I'm not really sure yet, but that's kind of my point, is that it will take a long time, even longer than the month or so that he has been with me, and we've been working on this several times a day, every single day. Okay, my second point is you shouldn't push too hard too fast. I think when it comes to overcoming anxiety, and definitely social anxiety, we tend to do bigger steps than what we probably should do. For example, when people are really nervous at parties, then we tend to take them out to big events like concerts or other kind of gatherings. That can be really overwhelming if you never worked up to it before that. Like, you should dial it down and start with something smaller to work from first. Like with him, 'cause he's really nervous around other dogs and people. We didn't go to a public place like the park for at least a week. We just did short walks around the neighborhood to begin with. And when we did end up going to the park, I would just take him to a small corner and then we go home, and the next day we go a little further into the park, and then we just sort of worked up from there. And when you're working on overcoming something that could be stressful for you, it's good to only do that for a little bit and then have a long time where you're back and you're a safe place. Like, there are studies that show that in learning new things, that sleep often helps reinforce what you've learned that day. So I think that it's a good idea to only do the stressful thing for maybe 20 or 30 minutes a day. And then you need to leave at least one sleep cycle, not a REM cycle, but like one full 8-hour sleep in between that. And this will mean that you have almost 24 hours before you deal with that scary thing again. And that's really helpful because it goes along with my third point, which is to create a safe space to go back to. When you're trying to help someone overcome their anxiety, or you're just trying to overcome your anxiety yourself, it's always good to have a safe space that you can go to. My home is a safe space for Levi because he knows that here he can get good sleep and not have to be worried that something might happen, and that he'll be fed here, and that, occasionally I'll give him pets, but then, if he doesn't want me to touch him, then I won't force him, and that way he feels really trusting of me. And part of having a safe space is not just the place that you're at, but also the people that are in that space. Okay, lesson number 3 is don't push your luck. I know that when I was taking him to the park for the first time, he seemed to be doing really well and actually seemed to be pretty excited. But the idea of not pushing your luck is that it is a new experience and something that could be triggering for you. And if, something were to happen after that did traumatize him, then the whole experience would be tainted for him. He probably wouldn't want to go back to the park ever, even though he did have some good experiences at first. We took it slow, and I think that meant that when there were other times that were kind of scary for him, like when he did encounter some other big dogs, he already had that arsenal of good experiences at the park to fall back on, so he wasn't completely traumatized of the park itself. And I think that goes a lot for other anxious situations that people might find themselves in. If it's going well, or even if we're really happy and don't feel scared at all, we might think, oh, we can keep going, I can keep pushing myself, maybe I can get further than this. But that's not really a good idea, because if something bad were to happen, then that would just ruin everything that you worked up to. So it's best to quit while you're ahead and just call it a day, and then you'll have that good experience locked in your memory, so that when you try again and something bad does happen, you won't be off put by the whole thing just because of that one bad thing. You already have this other good stuff that happened. Point 5 is progress doesn't always follow an upward trajectory. So when I first got him, he was really afraid to go outside in my backyard when the neighbor's dog was in their yard, because he's a really loud dog and barks a lot at other dogs if he can smell them. Well, of course, he could smell Levi next door, and that would really scare him, so he wouldn't want to go out unless there was absolutely no one in the neighbor's yard, and he didn't like it when there were people outside mowing their lawns and just kind of all sorts of other noises that it would be really hard to predict when everything is gonna be completely quiet. But anyway, over the next couple weeks, I think he got more comfortable with being outside when the neighbors were outside. He would stop and stare at the fence and everything, but then he would eventually keep going on with what he was doing. And that made me feel really confident that we were making progress. But lately, in the last few days, I've noticed that he's gotten scared to go outside when the other dog was outside. And I was getting worried, like, oh no, is he going back to the way he was? I saw this meme, I'll try and put it up here so you can see it, but basically it was showing progress. I was going up really fast, and then another not going so fast, and another that was kind of all over the place, like mountain peaks, and it's really comforting to know that you may end up backtracking or regressing a little bit, but you're still on the up and up. And the last point that I wanted to make is that sometimes that's just the way that you are. Levi is really timid and he's very curious about people, but if you go up and try and touch him, then he will back away, and he often tries to hide behind me, which is pretty cute, but it makes me worried that he wouldn't be so comfortable around other people, and that might hurt his chances of getting adopted. But I would hear a lot from other people that something must have happened in his past to make him like that. When I thought about myself, I have a lot of similarities with Levi in that I'm pretty shy and I'm very jumpy too, like the smallest noise or just the slightest touch can cause me to jump up, and I can't help it. I don't think there was anything that was particularly traumatizing in my childhood to make me that way. It's just kind of the way that I am. And when people say that something must have happened to Levi to make him so timid, I just think, oh, he might just be timid by nature. I mean, sure, your experiences can sort of exacerbate what your natural response to things are. But, different dogs handle different dogs handle the same situation very differently. And I don't think it's 100% how you're brought up. Sometimes it's just what you naturally feel like doing. So those were some things I learned from my rescue dog. Sorry, he's falling asleep right now, so I can't get him to come over here. I'll try taking a video of him sleeping. Anyway, I hope you liked this video, and I will see you in another one.